Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flix Show. My name is Chris Wong. This is episode 521 of the Ping Pong Flix Show. And I am going to start off with some interesting tidbit from Wonder Woman 1984. This is coming from Luis Fernando. According to Empire, Batman v Superman is still canon in Wonder Woman 1984, and Diana works at the Smithsonian Museum to keep track of any dangerous or mystical items, and lives in the Watergate complex where she lives. Why did I say lives? And lives in the Watergate complex where she has a view in any direction of Washington and can monitor the U.S. government. Wonder Woman is still out there doing heroic acts in the 80s, but always trying to go under notice in doing so people are not aware of her. Diana, now mature and evolved, avoids solid friendships in Wonder Woman 1984 because she is afraid of losing them all, as she lost her original team. So, interesting aspect. Very much a sequel to original because losing them all as she lost her original team. It's kind of like Highlander doesn't want to get involved with anybody. He's immortal, and so he'll keep his distance. Social distancing. So it's pretty much the same as that. But it's interesting that it says Batman v Superman is still canon in Wonder Woman 1984. I kind of had a theory that may be the case. Ever since we saw that little trailer where she gets her tiara and she hits the camera in order to destroy the camera while she goes and saves people. So I was thinking it was going to be like, it's Cold War. She's kind of like undercover saving people in a way. Not undercover, but you know what I mean. Like out of the limelight, she may be running down the streets of Washington, but it could be like a blur to a lot of people. Basically, she's not coming out to reporters and saying, I am Wonder Woman, I'm saving. She doesn't do that. She just comes in, swoops in, does her thing, and leaves. And so if that's the case, that is great. That's interesting. I mean, that should kind of dispel some, people saying that this is a reboot. This is trying to get, Snyder's kind of story out of the picture. If they have ever... depending how this movie ends as well. And of course, I never read the Empire thing, but Luis Fernando has. And if it is true, that's great news because it should end to a point where she is. It's not 100 years, right? I mean, it kind of is 100 years, but she is giving up on mankind, and maybe something happens in here, like maybe she gets because she doesn't want any solid friendships, but she befriends possibly Barbara Minerva, and losing that at the end of this movie, trust in Steve Trevor, losing that at the end of this movie, and she goes to a dark place. And so, again, hiding again. But doing these, saving people here and there, but not actually coming out to the general public like how Superman is, right? Superman is probably, more like a Batman, except not even showing a symbol and things like that. So there could be some of that here. And if that's the case, then that would be really, really interesting. I don't know how far it would go in the movie where you can actually notice those little connectivities with Batman v Superman. It's hopefully that's more the case in this movie, but we'll have to wait and see when Wonder Woman 1984 comes out. And I know it comes out in August. I think on the other video I said November. I was probably thinking about Godzilla vs. Kong. But, the situation with the COVID-19 and the coronavirus and the theaters are struggling, trying to open up and things like that. I don't know. I'm still kind of wondering if it will come out in August, or if, all these other movies will delay even further. Or does anybody want to even go out to the movie theaters and seeing how if it's safe anymore? So, we'll have to wait and see. But the fact that sentence there, Batman v Superman is still canon, Wonder Woman 1984, that sounds good to me, and I can't wait to see how that plays out for this movie. All right, now, this is not about a movie, but this kind of pertains to a little bit about, Zack Snyder's Justice League and things we've been talking about, right? The Hollywood Reporter, and really it came from Variety first, but J.J. Abrams sets 3 HBO Max shows: Justice League Dark, The Shining spinoff, and Duster. So he's got 3 different series. The one I want to focus on is a major show based on DC Comics characters in the Justice League Dark universe. That's the part that gets me kind of, that is interesting. That is interesting. Now, the third show, which is an untitled drama based on characters in the so-called Justice League Dark universe, details of which are being kept under wraps. Justice League Dark debuted in DC Comics in 2011, and as a team featuring magic-based characters such as Zatanna, Deadman, Swamp Thing, John Constantine. Over the years, Warner Brothers has attempted to get a big screen version off the ground, with filmmakers such as Doug Liman and Guillermo del Toro coming and going. Warner's backed streamer DC Universe also had a short-lived drama series based on Swamp Thing and produced a Constantine TV series for NBC, with the character ultimately folded into the CW's Arrow universe. Okay. So, what an amazing start to our association with a wildly imaginative bad robot teamed under JJ and Katie. Kevin Riley, Chief Content Officer at HBOMax, said Thursday in a statement. What could be better than an original JJ idea and then Warner Brothers letting them loose on iconic IP from Stephen King and the DC Universe, and to provide much more must-have programming on HBO Max. So the interesting and cool thing about this is first of all, this, he's producing it, right? The Bad Robot is producing these films, not directing. Okay, there's probably somebody else directing and writing and doing all these things for it, but these are being executive produced by. It's a Bad Robot production that's going to land up on HBO Max. Cool. And I think that's fantastic. That is so interesting to me, because we've been talking about Justice League, and yes, this is Justice League Dark, but having more content on HBO Max. This is what HBO Max is doing. What, it was like $500 million just to get J.J. Abrams over to the Warner Media side in order to produce more content for HBO Max, and it's going to be episodic, right? It's a DC universe. It's a DC comic, product, and it's episodic as well. And we've been talking about Justice League in a way. We've been kind of talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League in a way, and that it could potentially be more, be more valuable to Warner Media, more valuable to HBO Max in the long run if it were like more episodic based. You could chop it up and things like that, right? That is an interesting concept. We have to look at through in a business sense, and through a business sense, it looks like Warner Media, AT&T, looking at Warner Max, is looking at JJ's product, and especially a instead of just a one and done movie, they're looking at it, hey, let's stretch this out. Let's stretch this Justice League Dark out, so that, we could actually have more people coming on, waiting for the next, or kind of just binge watching, just a little bit more content to be put over the course of Warner Max, right? Of HBO Max. So it's more programming. They need more programming. They need more content, and this could be a first sign of more things to come. I know we have that Greg Berlanti Green Lantern. That's supposed to be a TV, not TV, but it's supposed to be like episodic in nature as well, so that's definitely going in that direction. I'm sure there's going to be movies on here. They did say that it's 8 to 10 films for HBO Max, as HBO Max is mostly launching next month. We're probably going to start to hear a little bit more and more of the different projects that are coming to Warner, to HBO Max, and this is one of them that's pretty big. I think it's pretty showing us what a type of things they're going to do on HBO Max, what the type of projects they're going to be able to do, and it's cool because Justice League Dark, it's probably may or may not even connect to the movie's DCEU. And to them, that's like, that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't have to connect, right? And so, that will lead into the question about Zack Snyder's Justice League. That is a big possibility that because it's called Zack Snyder's Justice League, because this is like, J.J. Abrams produced Justice League Dark, and it's a series and stuff, and it's not on in theaters. They could very much well don't have to connect to anything that's in the DCU, and which is exciting for fans who may or may not like what they're doing now in the DCEU, and they want to see a different type of DC on the HBOMax streaming service, right? And I think this is a start of something really intriguing, really cool, something really fun down the line. Like I said, the possibilities are going to be opened up more and more, right? I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe J.J. Abrams says, you know what? Let's just throw on who should direct my Justice League Dark? I don't know. Maybe Zack would want to, and I'm not saying that's ever going to happen. I don't know, but it's the control factor there where Warner Brothers is not totally 100% in control of what happens, what Warner Max does with shows and movies on HBO Max, giving them more control, I mean, if they're going to approach it like how Netflix approaches their creative directors, this is exciting because we're going to get to see some great creative things on here without having to go through executive after executive approvals after approvals, right? And that is so exciting for this HBO. If it's anything like I think it is, if they're really truly trying to be the Netflix for the Netflix streaming service, they're going to have to go that route, and they're going to have to give that creativity, creative, the creative decisions and everything to the creator. So I'm excited for this. But since we're already on the Zack Snyder's Justice League, and you see something here, instead of going through the ZSJL fan posters, this was sent to me, Sheriff Nabil, and he made an incredible artwork here, fan art here for Zack Snyder's Justice League, or he called it a Justice League Snyder Cut. Great artwork. It looks fantastic. I love it. I shared it and retweeted out. Fantastic work, and this is my pick for fan art of the day. Yeah, I mean, it says November 17, 2017, but he probably just grabbed that from the original. So, great work on the artistic look to it. It's great. It's wonderful. Absolutely fabulous. So, Sheriff Nabil, thank you so much for sharing that to me, and I'm making sure everybody sees this right now. So go and follow me at HIDERIO05, Sheriff Nabil. All right, well, as we go into Zack Snyder's Justice League, I just want to remind you, and more so comic book debate, especially Megan Daniel, wants to remind you of the good that the fandom has done so far, that the movement has done so far, how one fandom battles against suicide. And you can go, I'm going to link this in the description below, details on how it started, the birth of it, more than the movement, the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, Fiona even makes an appearance, the Project Comic-Con, the campaigns, everything that, has to deal with release of Snyder Cut and Zack Snyder's Justice League, culminating down into a list of the total list of donation events arranged and put together by Mick, and this is all right here, over 171,000. I'm sure we went over that with some of the newer campaigns as well. So that is fantastic. It's a great article. Go ahead, check it out. Go on Comic Book Debate. I'll go on the link in the description below and check it out. Don't mind the sound in the background. That's my wife making masks after masks for people during this COVID-19. So moving on, now that we're on Zack Snyder's Justice League, we're talking about that whole, Andy Signore Popcorn Planet thing, and it's still kind of raging on Twitter. I've been here and there, and I didn't know Film Gob went on by himself. It was a 3 or 4 against 1, and I feel totally bad for the guy, but he could take the hits. I know he can. He's a strong guy. He's not a racist, no. And so that was kind of very, terrible that they're kind of ganged up on him. But it is what it is, and that's fine. So, and I know Film Gob walked out of there. He didn't limp, nothing like that. So, props to him for taking the hits. I'm sure he can do it all day long. But I wanted to go into a little bit more about sources and things like that, because I know there have been a couple things coming out. There was an Italian guy, or I forgot, I don't know what nationality he is Brazilian or something, South American. And I couldn't find it anymore. But he said he had a source that said the Snyder Cut's not coming out, and he said the source is Warner Brothers. Andy Signore also said Warner Brothers is the source and stuff like that. So, but Comic Movie Marks tweeted this out, and I remember it very well. This is an article that Mark Hughes from Forbes wrote last year. And so I wanted to remind you about this, to keep this in mind. Okay, keep this in mind. It's also worth noting that there was indeed a sustained campaign to convince everyone that no Snyder Cut exists, with some people intentionally spreading false information to mislead the press and public, while others spread false information because they were misled by their bosses or sources and had no other evidence at the time to convince them otherwise. Okay, so basically saying that there are sources that are fed misinformation to give out misinformation, or they could possibly have lied. I don't know who Andy Signore's source is, Warner Brothers source or Closer Production or whatever. I don't know who the other guy's source either, but just give you, this is sources get it from other sources, and sources get it from other sources. But and that's fine. They might not be lying. They might be fed the wrongful thing as well. They might be trying to deter it as well. I don't know if they really are. Sean O'Connell doesn't believe we're giving them too much credit to be doing deterring things like that. Okay, but also I want to add, like I said before, this is Warner Brothers, right? This is Warner Brothers we're talking about. What have the conversation now, because we're talking about HBO Max and people keep saying HBO Max. HBO Max is not by Warner Brothers, right? I've said that many times. HBO Max is not determined by Warner Bros. HBO Max is created by AT&T, the father, and Warner Max is the brother, right? Warner Max was created by Warner Media. AT&T created Warner Media. It's the bosses of Warner Brothers. And like the article I shared the other day, and you can still go in and check it out. It's all about Warner Brothers not being very happy with HBO Max, because they're taking their resources to put product on there, giving them little they're like either jealous, or they're either like concerned that the budget is going to be fed towards HBO Max, because AT&T believes that's the new that's the direction they want to go into, right? That's the direction of the entertainment. They want to go into digital streaming, like every other company. I mean, why is there Disney Plus? Netflix is still beating Disney Plus now. So there is that need for lots of content to get out there, especially during now. We're all waiting at home, and maybe we won't even be comfortable to go to a theater for a very long time. And so Warner Brothers feels a little bit, I don't like that. And maybe that's why they're lashing out. That could be another reason. I'm saying all these, I'm not saying I know anybody or any sources, but just thinking it logically, utilizing these articles, even official articles from like a Hollywood Reporter and things like that, to think about it for a second, think about it through as a company, right? So, and that's why I said maybe there are some, the reasons for misinformation is in a way to deter people's interest into the HBO Max, interest in that. You know, there are may be some butthurt execs from back then who still are butthurt. So, and so, but the ones that you really have to look into is AT&T. And, this is a video. You don't have to click on it. I can tell you all about it. But it's Jon Arryn had went over, I think it was on Twitch or something, to Andy Signore to talk to him, right? To talk to him about how he could possibly be wrong about Warner Brothers, about the Snyder Cut not ever coming out, right? Now we know. And maybe I'll do this later. The kind of like my stance on the Snyder Cut right now. What I believe is, the stance about that. But anyway, could AT&T overrule Warner Brothers and release the Snyder Cut? Basically, Jon Arryn came on and said that he believes it will get released. He believes it will get released on HBOMax, right? Like I said, he believes that AT&T will overrule Warner Brothers, right? And have it and make Zack Snyder's Justice League. Have them make Zack Snyder's Justice League. They may even put it on episodic matter, put it on HBO Max, things like that. Very optimistic. Andy, I don't know if Andy still believes that. He may not, and that's fine. He has his own beliefs. He has his own sources. I totally understand that. He is pretty much his job is YouTube, so he's gonna need those clicks and everything like that. That's how he makes money. That's fine. That's cool. I got my own job. I'm doing this for fun, but I think that it's good that his viewers listen to that, though. I mean, if his viewers came out of that video a little bit more optimistic or even more believing that, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe Warner Brothers, even though some people from Warner Brothers says, oh, we're not going to release the Snyder Cut. That means we're not going to release the Snyder Cut in theaters. But that doesn't mean that the higher ups in AT&T says, no, we have that planned all along, Maybe we had that planned all along. Maybe we want Zack Snyder's Justice League to come out on HBO Max, and therefore we're just going to use Warner Brothers resources, and Warner Brothers hates that. They're like, what? Why? Why are you making us use our resources for Warner Max, my little brother who gets to play with all my toys and make Zack Snyder's Justice League? Okay, so, but I think that's a good thing, that at least maybe, just maybe, Andy Signore's subscribers, viewers, anybody who clicked on that article and say, you know what, that could be a possibility, and maybe some of them will start saying, you know what, I want to see Zack Snyder's Justice League too. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe to the expense of Andy Signore making money, but who cares, right? Are we all here to get the Snyder Cut to release? Aren't we all here to promote, to support, to make sure people know that the Snyder Cut is not dead in the water? It's still coming out. It's probably still coming out. We should support it, and we should, kind of tell people that it's a different movie from the Justice League. So I think more the merrier. So, thank you, Jon Arryn, for taking the time out of your day to do that. Thank you to Film Gob, although that situation was bad. I mean, it really should have been just 1-on-1 instead of 4-on-1 or even 3-on-1 or even 2-on-1. Like Lightcast was a 2-on-1. 1-on-1, what happened here was a little bit better to manage, I think, and I was very happy that Jon Arryn was able to get his word in, was able to get his word in and talk about it, to the situation what I even believe is happening now as well. AT&T is the people that would be the people that is making this happen, not Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers has kind of lost that part of the power now after AT&T took over. It's been more AT&T, Warner Media's decision on what type of content is being released, and we hear it every day. Warner Media signed, hundreds of millions of dollars for this, hundreds of $1 million for that, hundreds of $1 million for this. They're buying up all these different content to put on their streaming service because they need it. They need it to work. They need to be the next Netflix, and I'm sure they'll definitely dominate over Disney Plus right now. But so this is a great video, and I truly appreciate having this done, because we need more people. We need more people to believe in it. We need more people to talk about the Snyder Cut in a positive manner, and at least maybe those viewers would come in and say, yeah, AT&T could overrule and Warner Brothers and release the Snyder Cut. You're right. They're the bosses, and I think that's a good thing. So, and I know many of you feel about Jon Arryn, right? I get it. That article that came out a long time ago, it was a huge downer, and I get it. You guys were reacting to it. I was reacting to it. It was a big downer. But you know what? All of that changed. All of that changed November 17th, even in February, depending on who you're talking to. And that this is a new day. This is a new time for the Snyder Cut. This is a new time. This is, it has changed. I mean, if you look, even John and Dave and Steven, they're all optimistic now. They weren't optimistic before November. They weren't. They're optimistic now. They're like more optimistic now towards the part, to the point that they're like, oh yeah, it's a matter of when now. It's like it's coming out. So it's changed, and so let's look to the future. Let's look into trying to find ways to get more of Zack Snyder's Justice League, promoting it, the Snyder Cut out there. Let's focus on gaining more people to be part of our events, getting more people to tweet about it, gaining more of that traction. Let's concentrate on that, and let's let Zack Snyder worry about finishing it. He's the one that's gonna. It's not done. It's not finished until it actually comes out, and that's up to Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder is gonna worry about finish it. We just gotta worry about getting the word out. So let's concentrate on getting the word out, and instead of conversations about what it's done, finished, VFX and stuff like that, let's let the professionals like Zack Snyder worry about the film aspect about it. We just got to promote the hell out of it, and support the hell out of it. And if we could feed America at the same time and help suicide prevention at the same time. Let's do that. Let's focus on that. And that's what I want to say about that. So anyway, like more support, there is another one coming out. This is from Alessandro Lex, JLU podcast, Raverin. There is a new little event coming out if you would like to join in. It's very much the same like the April 12th event. We got it to trend over 70,000, and I think for that one part, people are like, I would like to see Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think we've got some blue checks and some other people actually coming in and says, Zack Snyder's Justice League, what is that? So it's kind of cool to see that happen. So continuous, support and promotion of it would be ideal. So the next date, and I think because of different, not in America, I think we usually put the month and then the day and then 2020, but there are countries that do the day, then the month and 2020. So the April 21st is essentially 2/14, right? 21/4, the day in the month. So we're going to use this date as a good way to start promoting, release the Snyder Cut. And so almost the same time, 2:14 p.m. UTC, happy 2:14, 7:14 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. These are the times to start tweeting out what they want to tweet out. Right here is hashtag release the Snyder Cut and something else. I think it's like another different hashtag, like could be like video games or teacher, or as one example is, the example, I am a high school teacher of science. I am hashtag release the Snyder Cut, something like that, right? So two hashtags pretty much, one to kind of ride on or have it to move up at the same time, I guess. Also, they're going to create a small Twitter account called @WeAreRTSC, because they want to be able to use your tweet or image for later on, possibly in a collage. They'll appear in a T-shirt or a hoodie. So that's interesting. That's something new. So they're gonna sell it through Ink to the People. It's gonna go race toward AFSP. I mean, it's altogether, it'll be a great event, I believe. Something to do. We're at home. We got the time. Come on, throw some stuff out there that day. So once again, on April 21st, 2020, you have to look at the time, though, to make sure you're at the right time during that day. But pretty much that day, if that's that day, and go to that time, tweet it out, hashtag release the Snyder Cut, along with another hashtag, and also @WeAreRTSC, so that you may be part of the collage as well. So this will be awesome. So it'll be fun, and this is exactly what we're doing. Let's let Zack worry about finishing the movie. Let's just worry about promoting it, supporting it, and helping a good cause. All right, guys. Well, that is it for tonight. I want to thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.